So the next we will do now is to create the models. The models for the roles in the permission. So if I open a terminal here, here inside of the command line, I'm gonna create through the PHP artisan make model. So this is the command to be able to create a model. And I'm gonna name it role, and then I will put a parameter which is -m. And if you want to know what this does, if we go here and type a -help, this will bring a list of parameters which we can use within inside this command. Yeah. So this m, as you can see, this is create a new migration file for the model. So we're gonna create the model, but as well the migration. Inside of the migrations are the commands to be able to create the table and the columns inside of the table. So later on we're gonna see how to do this. Okay. Let me just clear this and bring back that command, and let me just delete this. And now if I press the enter, so let me just show you where this will be created. If we go to let me close this. If I go to up and then I go to, well, inside of this folder, actually this will be, as you can see, we already have two models here, which is the post model and user. Yeah, and here we're gonna have as well the role. And inside of database migrations, we're gonna have a file here which will be for the role, yeah, table, which will be able to create role table. So as you can see, this has been created successfully. You can see the model, and here is the migration, where here is where our table and columns will be created. Yeah. So let's edit this file. Let me close the terminal, and here is the code which will be generating the table with the columns, right? Well, once we create this, we can add columns here. So you can see we have this two by default, which will be the ID and the time. Yeah, and this file, once we executed this file, the one command in the terminal, this file will be executed and will create all this, yeah, which is the table and the columns. So let me just add another two columns, just table. I will create a string, and this string will be called name, which will be the name of the role. And let me create another one which will be slug. As well as string will be a string. This slug will be, we're gonna use it when we're gonna use the role. We will see this later on. And now this is ready to be executed. Run it. And how we can do this, for those who don't know how this is, I suppose you already know. So it's through command line. Yeah, if I open the database here, as you can see here, we don't have any role table, you see. So let's create that through the migration. Now let's open a terminal, and let's say PHP artisan migrate, and this command will run the last migration, file migration, which is this one we have created last. So if I refresh now the page, actually the database here, you can see the table role. If I open this, we can see the roles, the columns are creating the table role, which is this name and then slug we have added. The other ones are created by default. Okay, so let's create for the permissions as well. So let's type PHP artisan, and this is the command for the permission. As you can see, this is created here, the permissions model and migration. Well, let's now edit the migration for the permission, and we're gonna add the same here, name and slug. Just copy this and put it as well here, because these are gonna be pretty much the same. Okay, so Okay, now if I go and open a terminal, if I PHP, I write PHP artisan migrate, this will migrate the last migration, the last file has been created, which is this one. And if I go here, refresh this, as you can see, we have the permission table as well created. Okay. So what we'll do next, we'll create the pivot tables. Well, for those who don't know what a pivot table is just a table of relation. So we need to create relation between the user and the roles, and as well between the user and permissions as well. So this is what we have to do. I'm gonna clear this, and to be able to create a table through artisan, we need to create a migration. Yeah, so let's create the migration. So we just have to type PHP artisan make migration, and what this will do, will create a file for the migration file where we gonna create this table of relations. So I will call this create _user roles table. So to be able to identify this table somehow, we are using the user word and the role. Yeah. But the create, this word create in the last table is used just by Laravel, but the real name for this table will be users _ roles. So this is how this is how Laravel using create and table, and then the middle phrase, which is this one, it's the real name of the table. Okay, so now if I press enter, this is created, as you can see, this file. And let's edit this. So let me just close this, and here I'm just gonna delete this because I don't gonna need it, and I'm just gonna paste the code and I will explain it. So the first line, we are creating a field which will be unassigned integer, and this will be called user ID. So this means, for those who don't know, this the value of this field cannot be negative, has to be from 0 to up. Yeah, so positive number. The second, we do same, but we are calling this role ID. So these are the columns for this table. This line, what do we do here? We are creating a foreign key. I suppose you know already what is a foreign key, but if you don't know what exactly we do here, so through this method foreign, we're specifying that the user ID refers, so this user ID refers to ID from the user, this ID from the users table. So this is how this foreign key is created, and this on delete cascade, what this means, so every time we are deleting a user from this table users, from this through this foreign key, we're gonna delete the user role from this table. So this is what this on delete cascade is doing. So this on delete cascade. Well, we are doing the same with this column here, this code here. So we are creating another foreign key for the role ID, so it's making reference from the role ID, reference to ID on the table roles. And the same, we are reusing this on delete. So if we delete something from this table roles, we are deleting as well from this, which is user roles, which is this reference. And the last line is just creating a primary key, which will contain these two columns, right? So this is what this code does. Okay, so now save this and let's execute this. Let's call this. Let's open a terminal. If I open a terminal now, to run this, I need to execute the command php artisan migrate, and this will run the last migration we have created. And as you can see, this, if we go to the database, refresh this, look at this side, so you see user role, so you have two columns on this table, yeah, each as reference for them tables, yeah. Okay, so let's do for the permissions as well. So php artisan make migrations, and I will use the same create users permissions table. As I said before, I would like to repeat, create and table. This is used by Laravel, but the real name will be the user permissions. And now if I press enter, this was being created. Let me just open this and edit it and just add our code as well as we have done with the role. So let me just delete this, just paste my code here, and let me explain this quickly. So this first line will create an unassigned integer, which will be called user ID. Yeah. So this is user ID, but this is same, not negative number, and this will be called user ID. The second one will be the same, will be called permission ID. The same with this, so we're gonna create a foreign key. So this user ID refers to the ID on the table users, yeah. And on delete cascade, the same as before. So if we delete something from the user table, this record from this user's permissions table will be deleted. The same with with this line here. So this is a foreign key, which will be, so this permission ID refers to the ID of the table permissions. And if we delete this, if we delete something or a record from the permissions table, we will as well delete the record which refers to this table, which is on this table, yeah. And the last is the same. We are creating a primary key which will contain those two columns. Okay, once we created this, save it, and let's go to the terminal. Open a terminal, and just if we type php artisan migrate, this will run the last migration we have created. And as you can see, this has been run it. And let's go here, refresh this. As you can see, we have users permissions created as well. So let's now create relations between roles and permissions. We need relations between roles and permission, because role will have more permissions. So let's create php artisan make migration create role underscore permissions table. So this is the same as before. This is the table for relation between roles and permissions. Let's edit this. I will paste my code, and this is pretty much similar. So let me explain this really quick. So the first column is a role ID, unassigned integer. So not null number. The second one, the same, is a permission ID, which this is called permission ID, and it's the same unassigned integer. We are creating the foreign key as well for this. So this role ID from this table will refers to the ID, yeah, this ID on the table roles, yeah. So this is the relation, and the last one If we delete a row from the roles table, we are going to delete something well, the same from the role permission. The second line here, well, this line here, permissions ID from this table refers to ID on the table permissions, and as well, again, if we delete something from the permission table, we're going to delete the relation from this table, which is called role permissions. Okay, and the last one, it's a primary key which will contain those two columns. Well, let's save this now. Later on we're gonna see how this will be used, yeah, but at the moment we will create them and later on we're gonna use them. So let's migrate this. Open a terminal, new terminal, and if I type PHP artisan migrate this, will run the last migration we have created. Let's go to database, refresh this, and you can see we have here roles permissions table. If you need more documentation about this, if you go to Laravel and here in database migrations, you're gonna have a lot of documentation here. If you go down, we have a list of all the tables, well, the columns in the table we can type of data, yeah, you can create in the migrations files. So we will gonna practice more and we will see more of this, yeah. But if you need something else or more, you just go here and have a look. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna create the relations inside of the model. So we need to create the relation for the roles and permissions, and as well for the permissions and roles. So one role has more permissions, or has one or more permission, or a permission has a role, you know. So if we go, we're gonna edit those two files. So let's go first on roles, and I'm gonna create a function which I'm gonna call it permissions, and here inside of this I'm gonna return this, which refers to this instance when this will be used, and then we're gonna use the method belongsToMany. Well, if we go to the documentation here in Laravel and Eloquent, and then we have relations, here we can find information about all kind of relation we have in Laravel. So just browse through this page, and if you scroll down, you can see all kind of relation you can use in Laravel. So this, if I search for belongsToMany, this is using many-to-many. As you can see here, we have some explanation and we have some examples. So this says belongsToMany, use many-to-many. Well, if you go from here down, you can find information what parameters this method using, what parameters mean. So you can see here we have third, fourth, fifth parameter, which explain this is the name of the table that we want to have as a relation. Then we have the ID. You see here it says what is this third parameter. This is the foreign key of the model on which you are defining the relation. Yeah, as you can see it's saying here. And the fourth one is the foreign key name of the model that you are joining to. Yeah, so here we have utilized the belongsToMany, which is a relation many-to-many, and here I'm gonna put the first parameter, which I'm gonna specify the model, which is permission model, and then class and comma, and second parameter we're gonna specify the name of the table where this relation will be. So in this case will be, if you remember, this will be role underscore permission. So somehow Laravel will know how this will be founded, and if you need to specify the keys, you know, for this relation, for example the foreign key, you can specify the third and the fourth parameter here, which is the table. This is for the table we are, and this is the table where we want to reference this. So just read through this and you're gonna understand. But for what we need, I think this is enough to be able to use it. So just use this parameter here. Yeah, this is the name of the relation table. So this is for the role. Now let's do for the permissions as well. So we need for permission, we need to relate this to a role. So let me just edit this and just paste this as well and just change permission. I will change because this will be roles, and just change the model which will be roles. And here, well, this is the same. Yeah, this is the same because we have the same table, which is role permission, which is this one here. Yeah, now we have the relation between those two tables, and every time anytime we need to get a permission for a role, we're gonna use the relation of permission. And as well, if we need a role for a permission, we're gonna use the role relation. So let's now continue and let's create now the CRUD for the roles. Yeah, so we need to create this. Let's go now step by step and see how to create the controllers, the routes, and then form to be able to insert this in database. And we're gonna see the edit, view, delete. So all this we will do next. Okay, so let's go. Let me just close all this. Just close all this just to have it. And let me just open a terminal here. Let me start with the controller. So as you already know, to be able to create controller, we're gonna use PHP artisan. So with this artisan, make colon and then controller, right? So I need to give the name of this controller, which will be RolesController, and then I will specify the model, which is -m, and this will be the model role, and the other parameter which will be R, yeah, which will be resources. We already know what this will do. We'll create all the method inside of the controller, right? And we'll insert the model as well to this controller. Yeah. Now if I press enter, if I go to app HTTP controllers, here you can see we have the roles controller. Inside of this we have so we have the model role, and we have all the methods that we need to be able to create roles, update, edit, and so on. So once we have done this, the next step is to add the roles. So let me edit this web, just copy and paste this again, and roles, I'm just typing role and change the controller, which will be roles as well. So we have the routes as well created, and now let's go and add this to the left sidebar, which we're gonna allow us to access the role. So let me just go to dashboard, which is in resources, views, admin, and here I got the layout and I got the dashboard, right? And here we have the sidebar menu, which is somewhere here. Okay, so it's here, and you see we have all this for the post, the user. So this is for the user, this for the post. And let me just, well, let me change the order of this. So first of all, I'll use the role. I just yeah, this is a bootstrap icon using classes, then user and post. So if I save this and refresh this, the page, and say I have the roles, users, so if I press roles, this send me to role, which is an index method inside of the role controllers. So let me just add this method index, well, inside of this role controller, and just add the code. So first of all, we're gonna bring the roles inside of this method. So let me create a variable role equal role model ordered by ID, and then I'm gonna want to bring destinant, and then use the get, which brings all the roles. So just return view and call will be the root will be admin roles index, which we're gonna create this and add the array roles and pass this variable, which this has to be plural. Well, if I save this, let's create now the view. So let's go to resources, admin. Here we're gonna create a folder which we're gonna call it roles, and inside we're gonna create a file index. And here inside we're gonna bring our layout, which is this one. Just close the section, and here we're gonna paste the code and I'm gonna explain it. So let's just put a title first, which is a h2 title, and then I'm gonna put here a table. So it's just a simple table. Let me just arrange a little bit. And inside of this table, I'm gonna show the roles. So this has bootstrap classes, and here I'm gonna show the table header and table footer, which I'm gonna bring ID role slug. So ID role slug. Then I'm gonna bring permissions and another thing which will be the tools where I can edit and view edit. So this is the header and this is the footer of the table. Okay, so here I'm just bringing this variable inside of the for each, and through this for each I'm gonna show all the roles. Yeah, so this is what this table is doing. So if I save this, go to browser, refresh this, well, I have the table, it's empty, and we don't have anything inside yet. So here we're gonna insert a role in the database just to have some examples. So if I go to the workbench here, go to roles, select this, and here I'm just gonna add some, for example, the ID. Let's just put admin slug. Slug has to be lowercase, and then well, create and update this will be added automatically. So I do apply and then apply finish, and I have a role now in the database. So if I refresh this, you see we can see the role. Well, let's do now these tools here, which will be the view, edit and delete buttons, as we have in the users. You see these buttons here, so we need to add them as well for the roles. So let's go here and bring those tools here. If I go to view here, I have the tools, this word, so I just paste this code and I will explain. These are the 3 links we need. So remember we have done in users as well. This is pretty much the same. So this is gonna send us, as you can see, this will call the the view method inside of the controller. This is the edit, and the last one, which is the delete, which this will call a modal, and we're gonna insert it later on and do it, and we'll see how this works. So let me show you all this code. You see this data attribute. This will allow us to use custom attributes. Okay, so let's create the functionality of the method of show and the view as well, to be able to view this role. So this one here. So as we have done in users, we know this root, it's a get, and it will call the, so this will call the role and sending the ID inside of this parameter. Yeah, I know this root is a get, and if this is a get, this will call a method show inside of controller. If inside of this controller we have this method show, so this is the method will be called through this link. So I just need to call a view from here and send this instance of role, this variable, because this is an instance of the role I want to view. Laravel knows internally how this role will be find, and through this I will know what role I'm looking for. So let me just do return here, view. Inside of this view we have two parameters. The first one is the root, which will be admin.roles.show. We're gonna create this. So the second parameter will be an array, which I'm sending the data through this instance, which is inside of this variable. So you can give whatever name you want, but in this case I will do role, and this is the key. And this will be used in the view. You have to add here now the role variable. So if I close this, save this, this should work in the method to show the role. So if I go inside of the resources admin, let me just show admin, view admin, roles. Let me just create a new file which will be called show.blade.php. Okay, so inside of here I'm gonna put the layout, which is this one, and just close the section, and I'm gonna paste the code, which will be something similar to the user, which will show the role, and I'm gonna show the role and the permission this role has. So I'm using this role variable, which then I'm calling the name, the slug, and then here where we have these dots, we're gonna bring the permissions for this role. And here we have a button which it's sending us back to the table of roles. If we save this now, if I open a browser, refresh this, so if I click on this, if I look on the left side here, we can see the root this link is calling to. So you see it's calling the roles and sending the ID. If I click on this, I have the name of the role and the slug, and later on we're gonna add the permissions as well, where we're gonna use the relation. So later on we're gonna see this. So if I click now, the go back button is just sending me back to the table. So now let's do the edit. If I go, so this is the if I go to the view, this is the link. So this route, I know this is what we'll call the method edit, and we passing the parameter here. So we are doing the same as the users. So if we go to the controller, we have these two methods which are used for editing roles. So first we're gonna call this edit through the link. From this we're gonna call a view which will be called edit, and then from there through a form we're gonna call this update and pass the parameters of request and the role. So now let's do this edit. So just return, we do return view, and inside we have two parameters. One is the view, which is inside of admin, roles, and then edit. And then we have to pass the second parameter, which will be this instance of the role we want to edit. So it will be this variable, but we need to create like an array. So this Laravel internally knows what role we want. So let's create an array now. Give the key role, the name of the key role, and pass the parameter this variable, which is role. Okay, so now if I save this, I got this ready. Let's create the view. So go to the resources. So this inside of this roles folder, let's create the file, edit file. So new file, edit.blade.php, and here I'm gonna insert the code. So first I'm gonna bring the layout. I'm just copying and pasting the layout, which is the same as the other ones, and closing the section. And here where I'm gonna add my form. Yeah, so this will be a form. So let me just add a title. Well, this has to be edit. Update new role. So the role, yeah. And now let me paste this form. Let me just explain this. This is the full code, yeah, of the form. It's just a simple form which I'm using fields for the name, email. So this is using a post method, but then we're gonna change it with patch to be able to edit, yeah, to use the edit method. So we are changing this here. We have the SCRF, the security of the form. And well, this is for updating files, so we don't need it to put it. Just I can even delete this. And then here is the root, yeah. So this root, I know this is a root which I'm sending this ID. And I know this is a patch, and if you remember through the routes, if I open a terminal and PHP, I type PHP artisan root list, here I have all the routes, and I can check with the root what this will call, yeah, what method. So if we go here, we have, like, remember we have 3 routes similar, but we have this patch here, roles, and then we pass the role ID, yeah. So this is the route and this is the ID, you see. And this, what it's doing is calling this update method inside of the role controller. So just to remember this. So I know you already know this, but for those who don't know that, I just want to remind you that. So we have here just a field for the name. So this is the label. Then we have the input, which is a text input for the name. We have the ID, we have classes. So this is the role name, and then we have the ID, placeholder, and we have the value. So the value is set it up with the variable we are sending, yeah, which is role, and we are bringing the name just to show the value which already it's already saved in database. We have here the slug as well, which is similar. You just bring in the slug. Other thing we're gonna be and change will be here. We're gonna bring the so we're gonna insert the permissions. So first we need to bring the permissions. They are already in the database. Yeah, later on we're gonna do it. So as this is edit, we need to bring all the data. It's already in the database. Or as well we can insert new ones. So later on we're gonna see how to do this. So we have to set this value with those permissions. They are already in the database. So now we have the here we have the submit button, and this is all we need at the moment to be able to edit this role. So let's save this, go to browser, refresh the page. Let's click on this button, which is edit button. If we don't have any error, so you see we have the role we already have, and we can edit it now. So we have the name and the slug. The only thing we don't have are the permissions. But here we're gonna need to add an extra code to be able to bring those permissions, or select the permissions for this role. Yeah. Later on we're gonna see this. So if I click on this submit, this will send me, or will make a request. Well, this is something, okay, so this is validation of the client side. So let's put something just for testing. Now this is calling the method which is the method inside of the controller, the method update, but this is empty now. So let's let's add something here. For example, let's do a dd, which is dump and die, and just bring the request variable. This is bringing me all the form, all the data, the forms it's sending to this. Yeah. Let me just refresh this. You can see this is an instance of the data of the form. Yeah. So if we go to request here, parameters, we have all the fields that this form is sending to the controller. So we have all the data to be able to update this role. So let me just go back here and just delete this, and or let's type. So let's create first a role, and then we'll name, and then equal. So this will be equal of the with the request and the field name, which is the field of the form. So we are setting the name of the database to the name which comes from the form, and the same we are doing for the slug here, right? So you see we have a different name here, so we have to make sure we have these names, right? Just make sure you're adding the correct name of the field of the form, yeah, which is through this attribute name. So I need to change this to role name and this role slug. Okay, so now let me just check first to make sure this is the correct value. Yeah, so let me just do again dd request, and then let me just let me check again. If I go here, refresh this again, and if I go to request parameters, we can see now the values, the keys, which are the names of the forms. Yes, role, name, slug, name, slug, permission. Yeah, so these are the name of the fields. Very important this. Now let me just go here, delete this, and then just say role, save. So using the method to be able to save this. And then we have to do return, redirect, and this will gonna role. So we're gonna call the index, yeah, which is through this link, which is the table of roles. So let me just test this and see if this is working. Go back, refresh this, and if I go edit here, let's add something here, admin1, slug1 or whatever. And later on we're gonna put a JavaScript code which will create this automatically with the dash in between the words. Just put something here, I don't know, all1 or whatever. And now if I do submit, you see this is updated. So at least the role name and the slug is updated. So let's do the delete. This is not doing anything, the button. So let's go to the view, and it's index view. Yeah. Here we have the table of roles, and what do we want to do here? Bring a model, which is the pop-up box that will bring the button of delete. Yeah. So let me just paste this. So I will explain this code. This is just a box which is activated by the delete button. Yeah. So this is identified by this ID. Yeah, is identified here in the target. Yeah, to be able to call this box, we use it through the ID. So if you need more documentation about this, I took this example from this page, yeah, which is this example. So if you need more information, you just go to this link and read through this, and it's very easy to use. It's just a bootstrap feature. Okay, so I will explain a little bit how this works, but it's very simple. So it's just a box which will have some text. So this appears when we click the button, and inside we have this form. What this form does is creating a button, and this button will call the destroy method in the controller. So what I'm doing here, I'm just gonna delete this, yeah, because this will gonna set this through the jQuery. So this attribute action will be updated through jQuery, because we need to send the ID through jQuery to this to identify what role we want to delete. So we need to select this attribute, the value of this attribute, which is the ID of the role, and we need to send this to the model, to this box. Then through that ID inside of jQuery, we send it to this action, right? We will see this in a moment. I have this code here. I need to delete this, or comment it, because I'm not going to use this. This is just something I have tested. Just if you want to send some extra data, just use a hidden field and send whatever you like. Yeah, later on you're going to see this, how this works. Because it's through this form, and inside of this action we're gonna call the method where we're gonna send this data. Yeah. Okay, so here in this link is what we do is we're using the on click. This refers to this link, yeah, the same link. We are looking the closest form, yeah, which is the form we are in, and we are submitting it. So what do we do now? We're gonna paste the code of jQuery that will set up the action of this form inside of this box. Yeah. So this is very simple. Let me create a section first, just to be able to use this JavaScript, jQuery. So this is use it just for this page. I'm gonna call it js underscore role underscore page, and inside of this section I'm gonna add the script. So this section will call this jQuery script just for this page. When this page will be used, but we need to insert this in the layout. So let's open the dashboard. As you can see, we already have some yields which are identifying some JavaScript in other page. So let me just copy and paste this again. So I'll do for roles as well. Yeah. So here is will be where we're gonna insert this JavaScript. Yeah. So every time we are calling this page, this code will be inserted in the dashboard page. So let me just paste the code. And let me explain it. So it's very simple here. So does this first line, so the model, it says that identifying the model through this on show. So every time this model is showing, we're gonna execute all this inside of the function. Yeah. So first line, we are creating a variable which will be called button. We're identifying this button, yeah, which activates this button, which is this link here. Yeah, so this is the link we are. This is the link is activating the model, and then through this button variable, we are creating another variable and use this button variable and the function data to search for the role ID data, which is through the data attribute, custom data attribute. So this is how we get the ID for the role. Yeah. So it's let me show you. So you can see these are the attributes, custom attributes we are using. Yeah. But the one I create is this one here, and what I call it is role ID, and I'm passing the ID here. And this is how I collect this ID. And then here down, I identify this through this through this data, which is this one. Yeah, and I'm saving this in this variable. So now here I have the ID of the role, and it's ready to be used, right? Then I create another model variable. So is this one, and I'm through this I'm saving this variable, the model, and then this is the one I have tested before with the hide, and so I'm just commenting this as well, because I'm not gonna use it, which is this one here. Remember I show you. So this is something which is used together. If you need to send some extra variables or values, you just use it like this. But I'm not gonna use this, so just leave it like that at the moment. And the last line, what I'm doing, I'm using the variable model and use the function find. So which I'm saying inside of the model, find the form. Yeah, so I'm searching for the form, and then the attribute of this form, which is the action attribute. So I'm looking for this action attribute, and then I am setting the value of this action attribute, which is the URL that will help us to call the method destroy. And this is the idea. Well, this is users, but should be role, right? This is something that we have done in users as well. Yeah, so is this the ID? Okay, so now this is, as you can see, this is the value, this is the variable we are using to get the ID. Okay, so this is the full route which help us to send or call the destroy and send the ID to the role we want to delete. If I save this now, Control S, and if I go to browser now, refresh this, if I inspect this now, if I go to here, you see that's the route, the correct route, which is sending as well the ID. Let me just add some roles here to not remain without roles. So just manually I'm gonna add 2 more roles here. Okay, so now we got more roles, and I can delete here. So let me just click on, let me inspect and see the IDs. It should be the 3 ID. Yeah, you see this is the 3 ID. So this is sending the correct ID for each of them. So if I press delete, this will call, this is empty because I don't have anything in the destroy method, because this is the method we are calling through this URL. So let me just go to the controller, and here what I'm doing here, just role, then using the delete method, then return redirect to the role table, which this is the URL for the role, yeah, roles page. If I save this, let me just go back, refresh the page. If I delete this, now should be able to be, you see, there is no, the third one is deleted, the second as well. So you see, now we have the delete in place as well. Okay, so now let's create here in the right side, top right side, we're going to add a button here which will allow us to create a new role. This will be a link where we're going to create the method create from the controller, role controller. So we're going to create the functionality of the method. We're going to create the view and what you need for this. So let's go to the index here in this file, and here on the top I have this title, and under this I'm going to paste the button. So this is just a link with bootstrap classes which says create new role, and we have the root, roles create. This root is method get, and this will call this create method inside of the controller. So let me save this, and if I refresh the page here, you can see this is the button. Yeah, if I click on this, well, this should create the method create, but this is empty because we don't have anything in this method. So let's go to the controller, and here we have these 2 methods that we utilize to create a new role. So the first one is from the create method we are calling a view which we're gonna create, and from that view we're gonna create this method store. So this will be through a form where is where we're gonna save the data. So let me return here and the method view, and here I'm gonna put the root for this file. So it'll be admin.roles and then create the file create, which we're gonna create in a moment. So now let's go and create this. If I go to resources, view admin, and we have roles here, we're gonna create the file. So let me just new file, create.blade.php. Okay, so now here inside we're gonna add the layout first. Let me just paste the layout and then close the section, and here inside I'm gonna put the code for the form. Yeah, well, this will be just this form. What this form will do is just a form. As you can see, this is a post. We have the action, the root is roles, and Laravel knows this is the root which we'll call the create method. Yeah, so don't forget to put the security of the form. Yeah, then we have the name of the role, which is the field for this is the label, this is the input field. We have the classes, we have the name, which is very important to identify the what we send to the form, like the name of the role. And then we have this, which is the role, the role slug. Yeah, this is a text input file field, and then we're gonna have the permissions, which we're gonna see later on, and the button. Yeah. So let me show you all the code. Here in the value we are using a method from Laravel, but we are using the require as well here. And then we have this value. Well, this method old in Laravel, what this does is saving the data in the session. So after the validation, the correct validated data will come back. So just remember, in some forms, if you submit the form and you have some of the data is not valid, the other data that is valid will remain in place, will not gonna be deleted, just to don't write it again. So Laravel used this old method to do that. Okay, so we have everything now. If I save this and if I go to the browser, if I refresh this, we have the form here where we can create the role. Yeah. So if I go back, click create, and you can see this is the form. If I let me put something here, I don't know, just put something admin 5 or whatever, and put here slug, and then put something here and submit. And now this is empty page, but this is calling the store method. Yeah, so if I go to the controller, to show you here that this store is empty. Yeah, so let me add inside of this method is where we are getting the data from the form through this request variable. This is the instance of the form, yeah, of the request class. So let's create a variable role, and then we call the new role, and then role, and we select the name of this is the database columns. Yeah, name. We are setting this with the request with the name, which if we go to the form here, this is the role. This is the name of the form. So we identifying this field through this name. Yeah. So let's put this here, role name. This value will be saved in the name column in the database, which is this one. Yeah. Okay, so this is very simple. Now let's double this line and do for the slug as well. Slug, and let's go to the form, and I'm gonna copy. So you see, this is the, let me see, the name is this one for the slug, yeah, role slug. So let me just copy that and let me paste it on here just to don't miss any letter. And once we have this, what do we do here? We are calling the role save method. Yeah, the save method is saving the data to database. So after that we do return, redirect, and we redirect to the roles, which is the role table, the index method. So now if I save this, let me go to the browser, go back, I refresh again this. Let me just create another role. Let me just go back here. Okay, so let me just create a role. If I click on create admin, well, I'm creating admin, but later on I'm gonna create real names. So let me just do for testing row admin 2. Admin 2, let me just put something here for testing alt 2, for example, and just submit. As you can see, we can create roles. Now we have the second role, which is successfully created. So now we have the CRUD for the roles. Now, what do we like to do? Add some validation to those forms, yeah? So let's go to this store, and here we're gonna add validation. Laravel gives us the possibility to create validation. So let me show you. So through the request variable, we can call the validate method, and inside of this method we are creating an array, and we are validated the field, yeah, so role name, slug name, and so on, yeah, so which are this one, yeah, and all others if we need to. So let me just create for the name first, role name. This should be required, and then should be maximum 255 characters. Let me duplicate this, shift alt and arrow down, and let me change this to role to slug, and then this should be the same, the validation. So if I refresh this now, well, let me just create, yeah, so this is refreshed already. Let me just go to index. Well, I will take off this validation of the client side because it will not gonna allow me to test the server one. So refresh the page. If I do submit, well, I have another one. Let me just take, is this one? Okay, so this not should be required. Let me just delete this. Anyway, just to be tested. So refresh the page, do submit. I can't see any error message because, well, through the validation, because the validation is done, this is not submitted, but I don't see the error. So we need to add the messages errors, yeah. So if you remember, we have used it before validation. So let me just put here some code, which, well, first I will do a h1 because I forgot to put this, and I will put create new role, and then under this I'll paste this code. If you remember, through the errors variable we are checking if there is any, yeah, through this, if we check through the method any, if there is any error stored in the session. If there is any error, we are gonna go through this for each, and I'm showing the error in a list, yeah. If I save this now, if I go here and let me just refresh the page. If I click submit, as you can see, we have now the error messages inside of this box. So it's saying that this is required. So this is for create. We have added these validations and the error messages for the create. But let's do for the edit. Before I do that, let me just bring this back. Require for those two, because this good practice to do two-side validation in this client and in the server as well. So let's go now to do for the edit. If I go to controller, copy this from the store, and let me just put it in the update method here, right? Now let me just put this here, and this will do the same. Yeah, let me just arrange this. Let me just copy as well this text and this script, this condition. And if I go here, let me just take off this H because it's already, and this should work. Let me just take off this just to be able to test it. Yeah, because this is a client validation. This is a good practice to have two steps. Yeah. And now if I go back and let me just refresh this. If I go to edit, click on this, for example, and let me just leave this empty, for example, or yeah. So if I just submit, as you can see, this error is working. So it's bringing the error message for the validation. Yeah. So this is working as well. Let me just put this back, just to have the client validation as well. This is a good practice, as I said. So now this is working as well. The controller is done. So we have done for the update as well the validation. If you like this video, please give a like, and if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to our channel.